In the last few weeks, I have been preparing myself for the LFM Rookie series. But if I'm honest, I didn't necessarily prepare that well. Because at this moment here, I've realized that I've made a grave mistake in my preparations. And that is because I have not completed, to this point, a single lap in any car on any track in the rain. So it's safe to say that this race is about to teach me a very valuable lesson in LFM Rookie racing, which I'm very excited to share with you at the end of this video. But for now, let's dive straight into qualifying and show you how it all unfolds. So I had no idea what to do in terms of setup for this particular race and decided that the safest bet was to take on the wet preset and change absolutely nothing about it. I knew that this session was going to be more or less completely based on me finding some speed in my driving technique, slowly learning the limits of the track, the limits of the grip and what can be useful here, and just more or less discovering as I go. The key was to slowly push the pace up and not make any mistakes, like this white McLaren over here, currently sitting in P1, but invalidating that lap and ultimately just taking away track time. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay clean and slowly work my way into the qualifying session here. So we come around here to finish our first flying lap and find ourselves with a 1 minute 36.485, currently up for P3, so encouraging signs, but lots more time to find. And find more time we did. Second lap, we're coming around here, coming towards the final set of corners, half a second up, definitely pushing a bit harder into this track, 7 tenths up, and getting a pretty good final corner here, 8 tenths, 9 tenths, really finding a good amount of speed. I'm going to come through for a 1 minute 35.555 on that second flying lap. Lap 3 here is where I get it a little bit wrong and I push a bit deep, just invalidating the lap. And our lap 4 here coming around, it's a tiny bit better and sitting 6th place on the standings. And this lap is going to end up being our fastest of the session, so we'll take you around this lap and show some of the progression I've made in just 5 laps of driving in the rain here. Pushing up towards turn 3, discovered that keeping off the curbs is a good idea, but getting on them isn't detrimental. So I'm getting a little bit of time here, 4 tenths out of turn 3, pushing our way down to turn 4, starting to check the timing board as well. A really good indicator I found was quickly looking at times and seeing what the better guys are doing, realizing that I wasn't actually trying to find 5 seconds or not. I knew I was kind of in the bit of a ballpark here. Our white McLaren friend has gone off the circuit once more, so that's the second time in the session he's been off track. And now making way back down the hill. Again, trying to stay off the curbs as much as possible, but not being too worried if I get on them that a bit of throttle isn't going to really upset the car. 7 tenths up coming into the final sector here. And I don't quite get this as good as the previous lap, taking a bit too much curb, and same at the final corner here, taking a bit too much, unsettling the car. And we're going to find ourselves coming through for a 1 minute 34.982, and that pushes us up to P4. Now there is time in hand and I am pushing on, but as you can see, I don't have enough fuel in the car to get around the entire lap. So a bit of a learning session this final lap, and learn we did, because in this last sector here we come in and do run out of fuel, but our predicted time actually would have put us on pole position. Nonetheless, P4 in this session is a good result for us here and sets us up for a good race, hopefully nice and clean. So qualifying definitely was a positive experience. My tactic of slowly working up to an ultimate pace and not making any big mistakes was very much paying off, and I really wished I'd put 1 more litre of fuel into my car. Of course, the race was always going to be a different scenario and offer up some very different lessons. But starting 4th on the grid, I was certainly hopeful to make up a result here on my very first wet race. So let's dive into the start line and see if we can't survive turn 1. So jumping now into the race, and no change in the conditions for this one, so no setup changes, running exactly the same as in qualifying, just with adding the fuel. We get green light and we are away. The white McLaren gets a really good start and he makes it 3 wide for the leaders into turn 1. I wanted nothing to do with this, so I brake early, get it really tight into turn 1, and we come out of there nice and safe, which is huge. I'm getting a big sigh of relief. I now have the white McLaren out on my outside. If we approach up now into turn 3, and I know he's got a big gap to brake into, so again I brake early and want to make sure I'm tight to the apex, nice and safe, no contact at all to this point, which is miraculous I feel for a wet race. The white McLaren goes wide, the two McLarens behind take a little bump, and he is the car that went off twice in qualifying, that white McLaren, so I am quite nervous, and sure enough you can just see it in the rear view mirror. He brakes super deep trying to come back on the inside, being passed earlier, almost wipes everyone out, and nice to avoid that one. We come round to finish the first flying lap. We're sitting in P3, which is a fantastic result. Now the BMW ahead taking on the Ferrari up the inside. These guys aren't going to get a best run out. The McLaren is now right on my tail. He is a fast car, but obviously I am nervous about how consistent he's going to be and any mistakes he might make. So he's really close here. He pulls out. I know he's going to go for a move. I pull to the racing line. I'm going to let him have this one. But he completely misses his braking marker. The BMW notices. He cleans out the leader. And just like that, I am now in the lead of my first ever LFM race in the wet. Of course, it hilariously is incredibly short-lived. I outbrake myself, find the gravel, and give all the positions back. Potentially the shortest first lead distance of anyone in LFM history. Let us know in the comments if you've led a race for shorter distance than that. Quite hilarious on my part. Later in this lap, we are going to find a 3 wide situation here. Again, I am playing it safe. I want nothing to do with this. Braking early, the Mercedes behind gets right up close, but I do not want to be involved in this skirmish in front in the rain. We get a half decent run out of the final corner, but having watched the McLaren wipe out the leader, I didn't want to be involved. The yellow Mercedes, on the other hand, he's flying, he goes up the inside. I make it nice and easy for him. We drop back to P5, but we are still with no body damage, no crashes, and relatively clean. So I am pretty happy with the race so far. Coming back into turn 1 here a lap later, the white McLaren, he takes another wide line off track, and the yellow Mercedes, he's going to take an opportunity to get up and hopefully go down the inside here, coming up to the top at turn 3. So I'm going to stay vigilant on this one, and I'm going to brake nice and early. Again, a nice tight apex. The McLaren runs wide, and we get a bit of an opportunity again down the inside here. Now his rejoin's not super clean, and he cuts across, gives us a bit of a bump. So he's being nice and aggressive. I'm going to give him this one back. I'm playing as safe as possible. He runs a little bit wide again, but again, I choose not to get involved in this one. Trying to let him just find a groove because I know he is a faster driver. Start of lap 5 here. I have door number 1 Ferrari. He's coming up the inside. He's making his way back after being taken out at the turn 3 by that white McLaren. He's off for a bit of vengeance, I think. So I am trying to follow him here because he is nice and quick, can learn a thing or two. The white McLaren once again takes another off-track moment. His rejoin is really aggressive. The Ferrari gives him a bit of a bump, and as we come back down the hill, it's all a little bit interesting now. At the end of the day, these drivers are definitely faster than me, but I'm finding that my consistency means that they are constantly holding me up. All these little mistakes they're making are just getting in my way, and while I don't want to be involved in these battles because I feel like I'm going to get in an accident, it's certainly holding up my race pace. Once again, the 3rd time this lap, the McLaren runs wide, terrible rejoin, collides for the 2nd time in this race with door number 1 Ferrari, and that puts him into a spin. It will be the last time we see him in this race. And in a way, it's probably good for our racers that he's now out of the way and we can all just settle into a bit of a groove. And that's sort of where things end up for a few laps here. These guys pull a little bit ahead and I'm just trying to stay nice and consistent and see if we can't find some pace, and hopefully these drivers will start coming back to us later in the race. Bit of an interesting moment here on lap number 9. We take a small glimpse. The yellow Mercedes now on the infield on the final corner, and we find here on his replay he lights it up going wide into the final corner, finds himself spinning out, so we inherit ourselves 4th place. End of lap number 11 here. One of the McLarens up front, he runs wide, and this is going to be a little bit of a trend of the next few laps. With 6 minutes and 50 seconds to go, both the McLaren and the Ferrari in front are going to make a couple of small mistakes, miss a couple of braking markers, and slowly but surely they're going to work their way back to me. And as this race goes on, the opportunity for a podium starts to become a real thought in my head. Here on lap 13, we're now showing within 1 second of that 3rd position spot. And the McLaren, Mr. Fast, he's Mr. Wide once more. And as I said, these guys just take turns, just slowly coming back towards me. With 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go, we are now right there on the rear bumper, fighting now for this podium. Now I recognise that I am most definitely going to need some help from these guys to make this happen, and they seem to be continually giving me the opportunity. All these little mistakes that they're making are ones that I'm not, and I'm having to stay really patient, particularly behind the cars here, because I really don't want to follow them off circuit. Looking for my own braking markers, making my own decisions on when to get the car stopped. It's certainly starting to pay off. Now 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Maybe 2 flying laps. Can this happen? Is there going to be an opportunity? A decent exit out of turn 1. We're going to have a bit of a think now coming up into turn 3. Really just planning here to nail my braking marker and just see what happens in front. And thankfully, the McLaren runs a little bit wider, and I get a little tiny look up the inside. I think he's lost a little traction on the curbing on the way out. Nicely up into P3. And just like that, the pressure situation switches. Having a car behind me with this sort of opportunity in front of me, this is nothing I have taken on before. And while following is one thing, and sort of deciding where to brake compared to your competitor, leading the way, there's definitely that unknown. Final lap now for me, and I've literally got 3 or 4 main braking spots to hit. If I can nail some exits, I'm going to run away here with this podium. But the McLaren, 0.2 behind, always looking. I'm never really comfortable here. I do manage to get into turn 3 really well. The downhill braking into turn 4, I also get it right. And this is where the McLaren doesn't quite get it. It's a little bit long. And also coming out of about turn 7, over the curbs. And just like that, a gap opens up behind, and I have near P3 in a rookie class LFM race. I am a happy, happy lad. What a race in the rain. So with surprise and relief, we find ourselves finishing in 3rd position in the first ever wet race on LFM. Now, it's safe to say I was pretty pumped with this result, but more importantly, I was pretty excited to learn some pretty key lessons from LFM. And to share those, they simply are that patience is everything when it comes to these rookie races. When you're a few races in, the fact is that most people around you are going to be quicker in the game, but staying consistent and staying out of trouble is certainly the best way to find yourself near the front of the field and ultimately surviving and outlasting some of your competitors. Now, it's simply things like, if a faster car is coming up behind you, don't make the pass too difficult. And if there's a big skirmish in front, don't stick your nose in and try and capitalize at every opportunity. Of course, it might mean you miss out on some places in the race, but it's more likely a case that you're not going to get involved in someone else's accident. So while not a pure pace podium for me, it is a true representation of real motorsport where sometimes you got to make your own luck and let the race come back to you. So if you are new to Rookie Series or LFM, that's the lesson I'd like to pass on. And it's certainly the mindset I'm going to have in every rookie race going forward in the future. I hope you enjoyed that crazy race, and if you want to see more of these sorts of races, I'm certainly going to be sharing them in the future. Hit that subscribe button and we can definitely show you some more of these really soon. Give it a thumbs up if you like this one. Race hard and stay positive, everyone out there. We'll see you all again in a very near future. Thanks for watching. Cheers.